All right, wonderful. Well, I'm going to share my screen. All right, everyone, can you see my screen?
Yes. Yes, thanks.
Okay. Now, if you do have questions for me, please put them in the chat. And can I have someone moderate that for me, please?
Yes.
Thank you. And so there are several things that I want to cover today. And I have a couple of things that I feel that you must know, and there are some things that um, we're going to cover. But let me start from the beginning because I just sort of jumped in there. I want to thank you for joining us and me today. And what I'm going to cover is Keynote, and Keynote being more than just an application where you see bullet points and charts and graphs and so forth, because that's what usually happens when you see a slide deck. You don't see anything magical, really. But I'm going to do this with a different twist because Keynote is a very feature-rich program. It just doesn't look like it when you open it up. There is an awful lot of information there. So I want to show you what some of that is. And I also want to show you how to create animation. And so you might be asking yourself, why would I want to show you how to create animation? I hear. So the reason is I'm going to show you that you can create something that we all think of doing. We all think of sharing. We want to share our family moments. We want to share our photography of our travels, family events, special time with friends. We want to create memories. And we can do that just by sending off, an image, but we can also do that with a little bit more flair. And I want to show you how easy it is to do that. And there are like several things here that I really want to take you through, things that I feel that you must know. We're going to talk about adding content, editing content, animation and audio, and then how to export that so that you can send it off to your family and friends. And hopefully you'll be more confident about working with Keynote after you see this, and you won't see a single bullet point in this presentation that I'm going to show you. Not one, not one.
Time on
You
this.
you had an excellent presentation before about the Keynote basics. I'm going to take that a little further. I may cover some things again just so that you have the context of where I'm coming from and where I'm going. So with that, I do also with
Oh,
with that.
Or can we mute everybody and then get Chita to unmute herself? Otherwise,
Okay,
we're going to get some problems.
okay.
how do I do that?
Good question. Don't know.
Okay. All right, hold on. I am going to play moderator here, and I
Yeah.
am going to mute everyone except you, Mark. Paul, I may have muted you, but I'm sorry. Where I was, I'm also hoping that I make a couple of missteps today so that I can show you how easy it is to fix. And so with that, I am going to get started. And let's turn this on. Now, you see this one slide here. This is basically my presentation. I'm going my presentation first slide. I'm going to keep this up and then go into Keynote and show you how you can start a presentation from scratch. So with Keynote, everything is a template, and you start from new, and you're given the theme chooser. And if you're in an older version of Keynote, you may notice that some terms have changed. This choose a theme used to say choose a template, and there's some words that they've actually changed or taken out so that they can become more politically correct and not offensive to anyone. So if you see those differences, that's probably why. All right, so with Keynote, you start by choosing a theme. And if you hear me say template, it's because I've worked with Keynote for a long time and I may use some of the old terms. So with this chooser, you have different themes. You have your basic themes, you have the new dynamic themes, and they actually, this one in particular in the upper right, it actually has a moving background. That may be unsettling to some, but you can create, a varied amount of different things here. You have all of these different varieties of templates that you can choose from. There you go. See, themes that you can choose from. I'm going to click on all themes so that I start from here. What is important before I choose the theme that I'm going to use is that I choose the aspect ratio. So up here in the upper right-hand corner, you have where you can choose wide or whether you can choose standard. I'm going to keep it in the wide mode. And from here, let's see, where is that presentation normally sitting? Craft. Of course, it's textured. I'm going to select parchment, and I can click on it and then click on the create button down in the lower right corner, or I can also just double click on it and it brings it up. Now, one of the things that I really want to show you today is how easy it is to change things in Keynote. Because I've seen presentations that are really sort of wild or odd looking only because someone didn't know that there were other things in the template, in the theme itself. So I'm going to start off just by going through the interface just a little bit. Across the top, of course, you have your toolbar. And when you work with Keynote, you want to customize the toolbar so that you have the tools that you're going to use. You see them wiggle, you can drag one up or into it or drag one down. Easy peasy on how to customize your toolbar. On the left-hand side here, this left-hand side is called the view area. And in the view area, you can actually make it a little larger or smaller. There's a view menu right here in the upper left corner. If you click on the view menu, it shows you several different things. You can see the slide only. Navigator shows you the thumbnails. You can look at it in different views. You can look at it in a light table. So you get the idea that you can, just decide how you want to look at it. There are also some other things here that I really want to get into. Here on the left-hand side, on the view menu, you'll see where it reads Edit Slide Layouts. So what does that mean? That means that it shows you all of the different slide layouts that are in this theme. There's not just one. Over here on the left, in the view menu, is where you would select to edit those. There are also several other places you're going to see these same thumbnails. And one is for changing the layout you're using, and the other is for selecting the layout when you add a new slide. So in this particular case, I'm over here in the edit layout. If I wanted to change what this looked like, I could. I could take all of these and change them. And actually I have. I've created my own templates that have taken out the placeholders. This is an image placeholder. This is a text placeholder. Let's say if I like the background, but I don't like the text, I can put my own in. And after I do that, let me exit the slide layouts. After you create your own theme, you can go to the file menu and you can select Save Theme right here, Save Theme. Once you do that, it gives you the option of where do you want to save it? You can save it in the theme chooser, or you can save it as a separate file that you can either send to someone so that they can use the template, the theme, or you can choose save, and it places it right here down at the bottom of the all themes chooser. And it also shows a new category here, my themes. So this is how you can create your own and save them out and use them again and again and again. And let me delete that and choose cancel, and let's choose cancel out of here. All right, so I've shown you the left-hand side, I've shown you the toolbar. On the right-hand side over here, this area is called the inspector. And you have several items up here. You have several tabs: format, animate, and document. If you click on any of these, they give you different settings depending on what is selected. There are a lot of settings buried over here in the inspector. So when you're looking for something, you may have to toggle through to really find what you want to use. So just so you know. Now, over here on the right-hand side, it's showing me the slide layout that I have. It's called title, and it's showing me the different items that either appear or don't appear, if I don't want them to, on the slide. And we know that we always know what we want to do from the very onset, and we know that all the way through, correct? If you decide that you've opened this slide, you don't want to use this particular theme. Typically, you might trash it, throw it away, and start over. You don't have to do that. Everything is changeable. So right here on the right-hand side, slide layout, title, if I decide, I want a different slide to work on, I could choose one from here. If I decide I don't want that one, I can choose another one. So everything is changeable and flexible. And if you feel, I don't want to work with this, you can work with something else. So now, what I just said about changing your mind and knowing what you want all the time and being exactly right, since we know that really, really, really isn't true, I actually want to change the entire thing that I selected. So if I come up here to the Document tab, click that, this looks a little familiar, but it's a little different. It allows me to actually change the theme that I want. So I click there, it brings me back into a panel like the chooser, and I can select the theme that I want to change to. So I'm going to double click, and actually photo essay is under minimal. I want to double click, and now it's changed to something else. And let me go back to format. I'm going to change the title. I'm going to change the slide. So I'm going to choose a different layout, photo horizontal. So remember, everything is flexible. Nothing is cast in stone. And I think hopefully that'll make you feel a little more at ease about the changes that you want to make, and that they can be made just that easy. Now, hopefully. If so, let me know in the chat that, it makes you feel a little better. And we're going to dive into editing content. So I have the slide and the theme that I want to start working with. Now I'm going to start editing. And the first thing that I'm going to edit is the title across the top. Now we have three things here. We have two text placeholders, and we have one image placeholder. I'm going to double click in the one at the top, and I'm going to type in my name, Chita Hunter, and I spelled that correctly. Woohoo! All right, so if I now go over to the inspector on the right-hand side, and I select the text tab, it tells me what that text is. There are paragraph styles inside all templates, and the paragraph styles just show you what these styles are that you can use. You can change them at any time as well. So right now it's giving me formatting of a certain font, certain style, and all other types of settings. Again, look in the inspector because this is where all of the information is buried. Now I'm going to double click on the larger placeholder frame, and I'm going to type in Scenic Paradise. And this text I want to change. I want to make it a little thicker. So I'm going to select it, come over to the Format, Text tab. I'm going to change the style to Roman. It makes the text a little thicker. Now, once I do that, I want you to notice that here, the word title now has an asterisk next to it. That means something has changed from the original. And it's asking me, do you want to update it? Yes, I do. I'm going to click on update. So now every template layout in this theme that may have used this style on it has now been changed so that it is consistent throughout. That is the beauty of using paragraph styles. You change everything consistently so that you don't have to go back, change one. Oh, I forgot to change this on this slide. It just makes life a lot easier. All right, now I want to change out the background slide, the image slide. I'm going to show you like 3 ways that you can change images in Keynote. The first way, if you go down to the lower right-hand corner, you have a little icon here, a little landscape icon. If you click on that icon, it brings up your Finder. And here, let's say I want to select an image. Let's say I choose this one. I can choose Insert, or I can double-click on it, and it brings the image in. Okay, well, I didn't want to use that one, so let me show you another way you can change. You can also go in the toolbar to Media, click there. If you select Photos and Videos, it then brings up your Photos application in a tiny little window. And 2 things to be aware of here. If you, because you're used to seeing something and then clicking on it. If I just click on it, it drops the image on top of the previous image. That's not what I want to do. Let's delete that. And let's see, I think the one I want to choose is, no, it's this one. If I drag it out, you'll see a plus sign. And when I let go, then it replaces the image. And actually, you know what? This isn't the one that I wanted to use either. So I'm going to come back over to the inspector and click on the image tab. And then I'm going to click on the replace button. If I click that, it brings you back into the Finder. Let's see, which image do I want? It is this one. So I'm going to double click. So now I have the image that I want. 3 different ways to do this. And it's just really flexible and really easy to do this. Just be careful when you go to the media button that you know you have to drag the image out and pause on the placeholder instead of just clicking on it. Okay, you want to see that plus sign. So now I have my very first slide, and I want to add more. I'm actually going to add about 7 more slides. Any questions before I go on? Quickly?
None in the chat.
Okay. All right, wonderful. All right, that means you're really enthralled in what I'm talking about, right? Okay. All right, so I'm going to add a new slide. I'm going to go over to the view area. You have an add slide button. I'm going to click there, and it shows me the different layouts again that are in this theme. The new slide that I want to add is photo. So I'm going to click there, and I'm going to change the placeholder photo for one of my own. I'm going to go back over to the inspector, click replace, and I want the map. I'm going to double click or press insert. I double click because it's faster, and it brings in the map. Now let me reduce this slide view a little bit because I want you to see the boundaries of this. So the map is actually being cut off because it's outside of the visual area of the slide. If I want to edit this to bring it into the slide, I can do several things. I can go over to the inspector. I can click on Edit Mask, and it shows me the entire image. I can also double click, and it shows me the entire image, shows me the very same thing. So once that happens, it gives me this Edit Mask bar here where I can take the slider and drag it down so that it is the size that I want. And then I'm going to choose Done. And there's actually one little pet peeve that I do because sometimes it can actually get in the way of what I want to do. So if you look, you'll see the boundaries of this file out here, but the actual image area is just here. So I like to make sure that I reduce them so that they're the same. So if you double click again and you have the edit mask, those white handles, let me show you. If you just click, the handles are white. If you double click, the handles can become black. And I just want to drag those in so that they snap to the image area and are not really outside of the image area. All right, because sometimes that can get in the way. So I just make sure that I do that all the time. So now that's done. So I have this image of a map. It has the ocean, but it's also showing the edges of the slide because the image doesn't cover the slide completely. So I'm going to create a rectangle and put it behind. So click here, double click, or just click and it comes out. And I'm going to drag this out. Now I want to place that rectangle behind that map. And sure, I can go up to the arrange and I can choose send to back. But I want to show you something that I use all the time because I often have slides that have 10, 20, 30 items on it. And doing arrange send to the back just doesn't work for me. So if I go back to the view menu and choose show object list, it brings up a list and it'll show you all of the objects that are on this slide. I can take this rectangle and then just drag it behind. And now if I had multiples, I can put them in any order I want because you're changing the stacking order. So now I want to change the color of that rectangle. So back over to the inspector, I'm going to click right here to click on that little rainbow. It brings up the color panel that's all the way over on my other monitor. And now this sometimes can be a little finicky thing because I don't think it's going to do what I want it to do right now. So this is one of the missteps. And this is something that Keynote does. So I want to change the color of this larger rectangle from the dark blue to the ocean color blue. I want to, excuse me, click on the eyedropper and click here. Nothing happened. Sometimes if you have the item selected before you bring up the color panel, it sort of doesn't work. So I'm going to deselect, click on the rectangle, and now you see that the color of the rectangle showed up here. So now if I click on the eyedropper tool and click on the blue, the entire rectangle will change. So that's a misstep of Keynote that, it just seems a little weird that that happens that way. But I've become used to it. I've learned how to use it. So giving you my experience. So now I have two slides, one with the, I want to say cover, one with the map. I am going to make a new slide. Whoops. I'm going to make a new slide. And with this new slide, I'm going to use this same map. Because in the end, the animation that I'm going to create is going to use objects that are on similar slides. So the first thing I'm going to do is click on my slide and I'm going to duplicate it. So it duplicates the slide. Let me hide the object list for now. I want to change the layout of what this slide looks like. So I'm going to go back over to the inspector. And I'm going to select the slide layout. And I'm going to change this to photo vertical. So now it has the image slid over to the left. It has text. I don't need that large rectangle for my new slide, so I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to click on this slide. I want to keep this image here, but I also want to use the map on the other side as well. So I'm going to duplicate it and I don't copy paste. I hold down the Option key and I drag over. I'm going to hold down the Shift key so it stays in alignment. So now I have two. I'm going to double click here and I'm going to reduce the size. And I'm going to zoom in a bit because I want you to really see what I'm about to do next. There we go. So first thing, I want to remove Actually, let me double click and make that the size of the image that I reduced it to. Great. Now, I want to remove the blue ocean background from this duplicated image. If I go back over to the instructor panel, I can select remove background, and it immediately does a really good job of removing that. And let me zoom in again because I'm going to show you. Now, what if I wanted to remove some of the blue that I still see around the map? And you see this square that's following me around. It knows that I want to continue to remove areas. So I'm going to just hover over that blue of the ocean, hold my mouse button down and start to drag. And the more I drag, the more blue it's going to remove. So you see, it gave me a better masking out of that blue. It's still there. The image has not been changed or anything. It's just been hidden. So that is really cool that this can do this so fast. It used to be a little more tedious with steps that you had to do, but they really worked on it. So it looks a lot better and it's a lot easier. So now I'm going to reduce this down just a little bit, slide that down here. I'm going to take this image and I'm going to replace it. So let's click on the replace button. And I want to replace this with the Nepali Coast image. And this image is a lot larger than what you see. If I wanted to move it around in its frame, I double click on it. And now you can see how large this image is. And hopefully you can see that rainbow that was in the center here that was actually there. The water was choppy. It was actually cloudier than it looks, but there was a rainbow sliding down over this view. And I thought it was really cool and I wanted to bring that out. So I'm just going to click done and ask if there are any questions before I go forward. Anyone?
None in the chat so far.
Okay. Is that because you're totally enthralled with what I'm doing? Yes.
They are definitely
Okay.
enthralled.
Okay, great. All right. We're good here. All right. So now I want to change a couple of things on this slide that I'm working on. I want to actually move the text and change the text because when I go from one slide to the next, if I have text in a certain area, I want everything to be in the same alignment. So if I click on the text with my name and come over to the inspector panel and click on the arrange tab, it tells me the size, height, it tells me the position. So I've taken note of that. And let's see if I can quickly put that in here on the next slide. So let's click here. I don't have to worry about the width. The height was, I believe, 0.78. The position was 1.35. And the Y position was 0.76. You don't have any idea how many times I did this to memorize that. So once I press return, it's in the exact same location as the text on the first page. So let's test that. 1, 2, right. So that keeps the eye really focused and by having things in the same place from slide to slide. Now, I'm going to double click that. And actually I have some text that I'm going to copy. Let's bring my text edit note here. I'm going to copy the title and let's hide that. Now, if I click inside so I can enter that text, if I just press paste, it pasted the text in, but the text is the same size as it was copied off of the text edit file. I don't want that. I want it to come in and look exactly like the text that was there. So I go to the edit menu and I choose paste and match style and it brings it in. So paste and match style is great for when you have copy that you've already written somewhere else. You want to paste it in, but you want it to look like what it looks like on the slide. Easy peasy, as they say. The next thing I want to do I'm going to click on this text frame. I'm going to drag it up and notice how it snaps. It's actually snapping to this frame above, and it wants to align it as well. So I'm just going to align it and drop it. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to copy this text, and then I'm going to paste it in. Now, I want you to watch something. Before I paste it in, I want you to look at the size of this text. And let's go over to the inspector and click text there. I want you to look at this. I want you to look at the size. Really important. So I'm going to go to edit, paste and match style. Something changed. It's no longer large. So why is it no longer large? And let me show you what happens. There's a setting in here that I understand why they do it. It drives me crazy because they do it without you knowing it, and you have to know where it is if you want to turn it off. So if I click on this text frame and drag it down, watch the text. The text gets larger. So by default, this is meant to enlarge, change the size of the text depending on the size of the text frame. And no, you don't do that. So I'm going to put that back where it was, and I'm going to show you where that setting is. That setting, if you go over to the inspector, you're under the text tab. If you click on layout, that setting is there, and the setting is auto size text. If I deselect that, then it brings it in at the size of the text paragraph style. But no, we don't want it to look like this. So I'm going to select a few words out of there. Let's go back to the inspector. I'm going to change this to, and actually watch here. There's a little gear. I'm going to click on that gear because I don't want the text to be in all caps anymore. I want it to be regular. And I'm also going to change the point size from 62 to 17. And so now I got the text size that I want. And am I going to leave it there? No. We're going to go back over to the inspector, and I want you to look at a couple more things. This title now looks smaller. It has that asterisk there, which means that something changed. Everything else looks like it's supposed to be right. So why didn't everything change? Well, you need to change the paragraph style as well. Now, before, when I made a change like this, you saw a little blue update button pop up here. You don't see it now. Sometimes it may not pop up. If it doesn't pop up, you want to click on this arrow pointing down. And from here, you go to that exact paragraph style, and you click on that arrow pointing toward the right, and you choose redefine from selection. That's why I selected some text first so that I could change it. And now I can tell Keynote to change all of those so that the paragraph style is what I want it to be. So now it's changed. Let's move that up. And so that's a really easy way to work with text in Keynote. And as you can see, again, everything is flexible. You can change everything. It doesn't have to stay the way you want. The last thing or next thing that I want to do with this slide, I want to add a location pin. If I go back up to the toolbar and select shape, I can actually type in the field, and I can start typing location, and I can pull up a location pin. I could either click on it or drag it out and place it exactly where I want. And now the next thing I want to do is change the color. Well, I've already given you a warning about how this works and how it doesn't work. My pin is selected. You actually see white here, so that means that that's not going to work. So I'm going to click on a blank spot, click on my pin. Now you see the pin color. Now I can click on the eyedropper tool, and I want to change it to this blue. Okay, and then let's close that. So, and then save my work. You want to save your work because anything can happen. So let's save this to the desktop. And let's just click there and choose save. Saving your work is really good because you can actually revert back to different versions if you make a mistake. So you really want to save your work as you go. Yes, Bob, your question is, when you change the paragraph style, does it affect only that document? Once you file new and select your theme, it becomes completely disconnected from the other themes. So whatever you do here only pertains to this one document. It does not affect any of the other themes, or the theme that you selected when you pull this. Only affects that current document. Okay. All right, so again, I've saved my work. Always good to save your work as you're going. All right, so now we're going to have a new slide. So add slide. And I am going to add the layout photo 3 up. So let's click there. I have my placeholders, and I'm going to click here and click on image. And I want to add, whoops, let's go images for demo. I want to add this one, helicopter ride. Here, I'm going to add the sprouting horn. This one I'm actually not going to use, so I'm just going to delete it. Now I'm going to actually paste some text in just to keep things moving. On my original presentation slide, I actually have some text that I saved. So I'm going to click here, and copy, go back to my slide and paste. And it actually pastes them in the exact same spot from the other slide. So that's a good thing that Keynote will remember. So I have my 2 text frames that I'm going to animate. And now I'm going to copy this slide, because on my next slide, I'm going to use the image in the upper right. I'm going to click here, and I'm going to duplicate. Duplication can be your friend in Keynote. So on this slide, I'm not going to use any of the text. I'm not going to use the image from Sprouting Horn. And a quick story about the Sprouting Horn image. There's like a geyser type spout hole that, it's supposed to give you, a really good impression or mimic a geyser. Well, for the 2 days we went there, it did absolutely nothing. It just sort of spit at you. So while I was standing there, I turned around and I got this shot. So I guess going to the geyser was worth it, because I think that shot was just beautiful to me. So
That's a good shot.
Anyway, yeah, thank you. So I'm going to take my image of my helicopter ride, and I'm going to enlarge it so it covers the whole slide. I'm going to go back to the inspector, select style. I am going to decrease the opacity of this to about 25%. Now, the only issue with that is that now that it's 25%, because it's sort of, not opaque anymore, you see the background fading through, and the background is black. So you really can't see this slide the way I want you to see it. So once again, I'm going to go to the shape menu. I want to bring out a square. Let's put that there. Oops. And make that larger. And let's go, I could quickly just go to arrange here, send it to the back. And I want to change that square color to white, that rectangle. And so now this is what I want this to look like. Now, before I continue on, because I'm going to duplicate 3 slides, actually 2 more slides, but the animation that I'm going to use for this is called Magic Move. And duplicating a slide really helps, because Magic Move works in this manner. Whatever objects that are on one slide that are on the next slide. If you change the look of the next slide, it automatically transitions to that look. So I'm going to show you how you can really impress your friends without knowing a whole lot about what you're doing. So I have my image and I have the image looking the way I want. I'm going to create a rectangle. That rectangle is my friend today. So we're going to click there. I want the size of this rectangle to be 4.5. Sorry. My computer just told me I did something wrong. All right. 4.5 by 4.5. So we're going to make it a square. And I'm going to just drag it and try to align it to the center of the slide. And Keynote actually lets me know when I've aligned it to the center. So these little helpers, and it snaps into place. So these little helpers are very helpful. So with that, I'm going to actually change the color of this. And let's see if it's going to work with me. I want that to be that color. All right, it worked this time. All right. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is add text. And the text is going to read option I, Kawaii. And let's see if we can center this up. Sometimes you have to click on a blank spot and click off of the area so that you can then click on it and move it where you want. So I'm going to center this up. Now I'm going to change the opacity of that text to 0. So it really isn't there, but it is. With that, let's save. I'm going to go back over to the left to the view area, and I'm going to duplicate this slide. All right, now I have the same slide. I'm going to make some changes to these objects. I want to make this into a rectangle, and I'm going to change the size of the text. So I want the sides of the rectangle to come out at the same time. So I'm going to hold down the Option key, and I'm going to grab the side handle. And as I grab and drag, it's going to increase both sides at the same time. That's what holding down the Option key will do for you. And let's see, I'm going to make it about that size. I don't think I really had a actual size for this. Actually, I did. All right, so let's change that. And I wanted that to be just a tad bit wider. Okay, 9. All right, good enough. All right, that text is still there in front of it. I click there, there's my text. And let's go to the text panel. I'm going to change this. Actually, let's go style first. I'm going to change that opacity back to 100. I'm going to change the text size to 240 points. That's really large. And let's align it up, center it up. All right, now that's the only thing I'm going to do for this slide. Now I'm going to duplicate it. So now I have my third slide, which is of this. This is slide 7. Now I'm going to change the text again and the rectangle again and add another text frame. So let's click on the rectangle first. I'm going to change it. I want it to look out like that, more like a column, a thin column. And all right, I'm going to change what the text looks like. I'm going to change the color. I want the color green. And I'm going to add a drop shadow style. All right. The next thing I'm going to do is add more text. Let's move that out of the way. And this text is going to read, actually, let me make change. Oh, I'm fine, sorry. All caps. It's going to read, oops. The Garden Isle of the Pacific. All right, so this text frame is really interesting looking. There are several different text frames in the Keynote app, and they do different things. And this particular one, you see these little handles on either side. Normally, text frames will have a handle on each corner as well as in the center. But because this one doesn't, this is what it does for you. Just like with the original frame we saw. If you change the size of the frame, it repositions the text. And I actually want that to be a certain size. So let's change that to 64. And I'm actually going to change the color as well to blue. And so if I move this rectangle again, it'll resize. I'm going to place that about here. We're going to make, let's see, align this. And this particular part I'm doing by eye, so it's okay. 1, 2, let's select them all and let's center them up. All right. So at this point, I have all of the content that I want on my slides. My scenic view, my map and image, photographs and text of where I've been. And then I'm going to end with a flourish of animation, these 3 slides that I've copied. Any questions before I get on to the animation part?
No,
You good?
all quiet.
All right, all quiet. All right, you mesmerized. Okay, good. I like that. All right, so now we have our content on our slides. I want to now animate the slides. After I animate the slides, I'm then going to animate some of the content on the slides. So I'm going to start off by selecting all of the slides. And if I come over to the inspector and I choose animate, these are called transitions. Because all of the slides are selected, Keynote knows that what I want to do now is work specifically on the slides themselves, not the objects that are on the slides, just the slides. So the transition that I'm going to start with here, it says add effect. The transition that I want to start with is magic move. I'm going to change some of them, but I'm just going to start there. And then I'll show you what magic move does. So it gives you a little warning and you can read it. I just choose okay because I'm used to it. And notice that it just showed you a preview of going from slide 1 to slide 2. Now, there are no objects on slide 1 and slide 2 that are just the same. So all it's going to do is just dissolve. But if I go from slide 2 and slide 3 and show you a preview, it's going to show you what it's going to do. So when you're working with animation, you want to preview it often so it can give you what you want. And I'll tell you that if there are times when you aren't getting what you want, things that you need to look at are start transition on click. You usually might want this to be automatic. And you're going to be working with duration. And I'll show you another item when we get to another slide. So that is what Magic Move does. It transitions from the transition and it transitions an object that is on one slide to the next. And it just makes it makes you look like a superstar. So I'm going to first click on the first slide. I really don't need this to be Magic Move. So I'm going to change this. And this is just going to be dissolve. And it just shows you, it's just dissolving from one slide to another. The transition that I want to set for duration, I'm going to set that at 2.5. And it is also, duration is something that can make or break the slide that the animation that you're trying to create. For start transition, I want this to transition automatically. And you also have delay here. So what exactly does all this mean? Duration and delay. Duration is 2.5. I want this slide, I want this slide to appear for 2.5 seconds. Delay means how long I want it to wait before it starts that transition. So now if I change delay to, let's say 2, I have a total of 4.5 seconds. So let's see if I can show you that. So if I'm going to click preview, 1, 2, 3, 4.5. So if you find that things aren't working the way you want them to when you're creating transitions, these are the items to look at: duration, when it's supposed to start, and what the delay is. They're really, really important. So now let's go to the next slide. We know that we set this at magic move. I want to change what the duration is here as well. So my duration is going to be 2.5. And this is all trial and error. There's nothing cast in stone on this. So you do have to figure it out. 2 is a good starting point. Sometimes 2 may be too fast. And you can change it incrementally. So you can really, really get down to very precise on the transition and duration aspects. Now I want this to start automatically. And in Magic Move, it's sort of asking you, how do you want to match this up by object? And that means the actual objects. If I had words or text, I could match it up by word, or I could also match it up by character. I made some really cool examples doing that. Acceleration, ease in, ease out. Yeah, I know you know exactly what that means. Yeah, no. What that means is, do you want it to abruptly start and stop, or do you want it to smoothly start and stop? That's what ease in and ease out does. It's set by default, and if you don't have a reason to change it, then don't change it. That default is a good default. Start transition automatically, and for the delay, I'm going to set the delay to 2 seconds. All right, let's go to the next slide. For this slide, this is going to be a dissolve. It doesn't have to be a magic move because there's nothing that transitions from this slide to the next slide. So I'm going to change the transition to dissolve. And it shows you how it's going to go from this slide to the next slide. I'm going to leave the duration at 2 seconds. I'm going to transition automatically, and I'm going to set the delay to 3 seconds because there's something else that I'm going to add here that's going to animate. Previously, we've just been working on the transitions of the slides. What if you now get to a slide and you want something on the slide to animate? So I'm going to take the location pin. Once I click on it, and because I'm in the animation tab, it's asking me, what do you want to do? You have your options: build in, action, build out. This is 1, 2, 3. This is start, middle, end. You don't have to have a build in and build out. If you don't have a build in, action, or build out, nothing will happen. It'll just transition. But let's say after the slide transitions, I want that location pin to drop down. So I'm going to choose Effect, and I'm going to go down and choose Squish. So that's what it's going to do after the slide transitions. And I'm also going to add a sound effect to that location pin. And I'm going to drag that in from my desktop. And let's drag it in. And I'm going to place it right here. Okay, sure. I'm going to place it actually off the screen because I don't want this sitting on the slide for anyone to click on. I'm going to place it there. Now, once you get, and for some reason this won't preview in this latest version of Keynote. So it'll preview in another way, but it won't preview right now. Now, once you place items on a slide and you animate them, you have to tell Keynote in what order and when I want them to animate. So down here at the lower right, you have a build order button. And this build order also becomes very important because, again, if you find that some things aren't working the way you expect them to work, you need to open up build order and you need to look right here. This may be set on click instead of with something. So I want the location pin to start after the transition. I want it to drop down after the transition. I want the sound to start not on click, but I want it to start with build one. Build one is the location pin. So now you saw that move up. So now, and I don't want to delay. Let's see if it shouldn't play. It should just show you what it's going to do. But I want it to play. So I'm going to quickly. Hear that?
Yes.
So that's adding the animation to the object and adding the sound to the animation. All right, let's move on to the next slide. On this particular slide, I want the images to be up as soon as the slide transitions. So I'm not going to set a transition for those. I want to change this from magic move to dissolve. Again, everything is flexible here. Now I want to make sure it's automatic. The transition is going to be 2 seconds. The delay is going to be 2 seconds instead of 0.5. Now I'm going to add a transition to this particular effect. Build in. What do you want this to do after the slide transitions? Well, I want this to whoosh in. And notice here that if I'm on an effect, you'll see preview. So I don't have to choose the effect to see what it's going to look like. I can click preview. It'll show me. I can come here, preview. It'll show me what that will look like. So you can preview them before you add them. I want the swoosh, so I'm just going to click on the title. And that's coming in a little faster than I want. The duration is set at 1 second. I'm going to change it to 2. It's going to come in from left. I'm going to leave all of the defaults, the order, delivery all at once. Yes. So I have this animation set. I want the same animation here on the second line of text. So instead of having to go through this again, I go to Format, Copy Animation. I come to this text, Format, Paste Animation. I can't tell you what a time-saving effect that particular copy paste is. So now I have these two. They both have the same animation. And I actually want to show you what a build out is. So you have build in, which is the beginning, action is the middle, build out is the end. What do you want the items to do before they transition out? Action would be what you want this object to do in between the build in and build out. I'm not going to select an action, but these are the items that you have for actions. Sometimes they're very limited, but they can be fun to add them in. And you can add multiple actions to something. So just beware. You can, the sky's the limit for what you can do here. So I'm going to actually select these two. I want to pull the build out effect. And all I want that to do is just dissolve. So I can select build order and see what's going to happen. You always want to look at build order. So when after the slide transitions, this is going to come in. On click, no, I want it to come in automatically after the transition. Build to, what do you want it to do? On click, no, I want it to happen after, not with build one, but after build one. Build 3, what do you want that to do? I want that to happen after build 2. And I could put a delay on this as well. And I think I might do that. Let's just put a delay of 1 second. And the last, I want that to transition with build 3. So now let's see if I can preview. I'm going to select all of these and preview what they're going to do. So it's going to swoosh in, and then they're going to fade out. Easy. Easy peasy. All right, so now I'm going to save that. And let's go to these last these last 3 slides. I've already have the magic move transition on these 3 slides. Magic move looks for objects that are similar on each slide. So slide 1 is going to be looking for what's similar on slide 2. Slide 2 is going to be looking for what's similar on slide 3. All right, I'm going to leave that. I'm not going to add any animations other than that to those last 3 slides. Now, the last thing I want to do, I want to add a document soundtrack. So back over to the inspector panel, I'm going to click on document. And here I'm going to click on audio. And from my desktop, I'm going to drag over a M4A file into here. It has to be an M4A. Keynote won't take anything else. All right, so now save my work. And now let's see how this all works. Does it play the way I want it to play? So here we go. See? No. Oh, it does. Oh, the answer is no. What happened? So when I get to this slide, it just sort of sits there. So what went wrong? Click here. Go back to format, actually animate, format, and let's go to animate. And let's see if there's nothing wrong in build order. So click back on slide. So this is one thing that I've noticed Keynote may do to you sometimes. I'm positive we set automatic here. And sometimes it likes to switch itself back. So let's change that. Let's go here and see if the same thing happened here. Yes. There. And same thing happened here. So let's try this again. Let me make sure. Automatically. All right, let's try it again. Okay. Any questions about this? Yeah, how do you like that?
Very good. Very good.
Yeah. All right. Anyone? Any questions? Okay. So now that you've created your masterpiece that you want to share, you can share it out several ways because, you can't assume that everyone has Keynote and you can send this file to them and they can just open it up. So what you would want to do is go to File and choose Export. And you can actually export this out as a movie that you can send to someone, even an animated GIF, but a movie plays a lot better. So if I select movie, and the options are, you want it to be self-playing. You really have no choice. You want to select all of the slides. You can select from, but you're truncating your movie. Now these options here, go to next slide and go to next build. These actually don't come into effect if you have transitions on your slides already. So they could be grayed out, but they actually don't affect. And you can actually set the resolution for how you want this to be exported. And with that, you have an option where you could send a copy, Again, you can't assume that everyone has Keynote, but you can send a copy. I'm going to choose Save. And you can see that it's going to save as an M4V file. I'm going to save it to my desktop and choose Export. And let's hide Keynote and open up. And there you go. And it's automatically started playing. So you get the idea. You can export it out and make it available to those who you want to send it to. I'm going to go ahead and stop that because we've seen this already. Even though it's beautiful, we've seen it already. Really, it opened on Apple TV. Didn't mean it to do that. So now, if you are concerned, let me see what the file size is here. The file size is 35 megabytes. So if you are concerned about the file size, you can always encode the file in Handbrake, and it will take it down to something like, let me go here. And let's just click there and let's drag. Let's open. And I want you to open source. Go to desktop, find this file, and open it in Handbrake. And I'll do this, just add a little suffix at the end. And once I encode it, and it should take a couple of seconds to encode it and create a new file. All right, done. And okay, where did you go? Oh, I put it on there. Okay, let me bring that over. It's on my other screen. Sorry about that. There we go. All right, so I'm bringing this over, dropping it there, and let's quit Handbrake. So once you encode it in Handbrake, the size is now just 8 megabytes. So it reduced the size significantly. So with that, that is my presentation on Keynote and how to use it for something else than bullet points, which you didn't see. All right. Ferris has a question. Where can I get a brain extension? I don't know. I didn't know that they had those out there. I didn't see a magic move transition between slide 4 and 5. There was not a magic move transition. I changed it from magic move to dissolve. Okay. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, John. Thank you. Is it okay to unmute yourself and ask questions if you have any more questions so we can talk instead of just reading the chat? Yeah.
Yes. Please feel free to unmute yourselves. Excellent presentation. Nice, clear, brilliant.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I wanted to give you something that you could really use because there's only 7 slides here. I really can't give you the full breadth of Keynote, but I think I've given you a really good idea of what it can do more than just text and slides, so that you can really create something that you would really be interested in creating. And you can go over the video to see what I've done, but I've hopefully done nothing that was overly complicated. I like to keep things simple and explain it to you in ways that you can use it, that's my goal, for you to be able to use it after I'm done. So,
You have nailed it.
thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you, Chita.
Thank you. Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Paul. All right. Any
Chita, you gave the bullet to the bullet points.
Oh,
they have their place. But I think that when you want to really create something that's so visual, I mean, this is really visual, and someone would enjoy receiving something like this. And that's the whole idea behind this type of presentation that I wanted to create. I know some of you do travel a lot and you do want to share. So you're creating something that someone would really be interested in, that your family would really be interested in, and you can just have fun with it, with how you create things with it. So, okay. Any other questions about anything that I've done that you may or may not have understood? Okay. If not, I'm just hanging out with you until we're done.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chita.
You're quite welcome, John.
Fantastic.
Two
Really brilliant.
two alternate ways to. Yes, John had the point here. I've given you two alternate ways to include pictures, and actually, I've shown you three because from maybe two versions ago, Keynote changed how you enter images. That landscape icon that used to be down in the lower right corner, originally when you clicked on it, it would actually take you into photos, but now it takes you to the Finder. So they've changed things around a little bit, and it works. I think that when you're selecting things from the media, from photos, it would have been nice if they had like drag instead of nothing, because you don't know that if you click, it's just going to drop it on top. But one thing here, and thank you for leading me here, John. One of the things that people are trying to do today is not give the geolocation of the images, because they either don't want to share where they are at that time, or they don't want wherever they have been to be overrun by tourists. That's the one thing about geolocation. It has led tourists to locations where they probably should not have gone. So if you have an image in photos that has geolocation, if you open this, if you select options and click here, you can take out the geolocation of that image, so that when it's implanted somewhere, whether it be in Keynote or anywhere, you can strip out that geolocation information. So I think that is a very good option that they have here. Right. Okay. Thank you for reminding me about that, John. Okay. Can you go through it all again? You have the video. So yes, the answer is actually yes. So you have that video. So, okay. All right. Anything else I can show you? No, did I finish early? Are we on time? Are we early?
Nothing ever
Chita,
happened here.
Yes.
Chita, I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
I'm interested sometimes in using serif typefaces that make it
Yes.
less easy to mistake an I or an L for a one.
Mhm.
I'm wondering what sort of typesets you bring across. What are they called? I mean, they used to be called drat. I've forgotten now. There used to be armies of them under a label called I don't know. I've forgotten now. But what do you look for?
I actually avoid serif fonts
Okay.
because they can be very hard to read, and I choose sans serif fonts. And if I need to change the spacing so that they're easier to read, I do that, or even change the font size. But on a slide like this one, a serif font would be very difficult to read.
Yeah.
So bless you, bless you. So the serif fonts have their place, but I typically gravitate towards sans serif fonts.
Okay.
Okay. So All right. Any other question?
Chita, what's the maximum length or number of slides you would put in one of these presentations? Because I've got an idea that I want to work on, and this actually suits it brilliantly.
It depends on what I'm trying to get across, because I think I've gotten a lot of information across to you in just these 7 slides. My intent is always to give you quality and not quantity. So, and the time, and you also might have time constraints. So I think the amount of information that I've given you certainly doesn't fry your brain, but it gives you enough to get you going and give you really good information about what you're trying to do. So I try not to have a multitude of slides, because then you're trying to rush through them to make sure that you get over them completely, and you can even forget some of the content that you're trying to add if you have so many. So I believe in less is more.
When you use, for example, 2.5 seconds to view and 2 seconds to transit.
Yes.
Is that pretty standard? The same as everything else, or are there times when you need to extend that?
There are other times you need to extend them, and that truly depends on how much you've animated objects that are in the slide. If you've not animated anything like this, well, actually, this is transitioning to one that has sort of a magic move effect. So it depends on your transitioning and what you're trying to show. Because if I set this at 1, it would go so fast and it would feel awkward. So you want to, there's so many variables when you're transitioning and really what you're trying to show. So again, I just follow the less is more theology of things when I'm putting slideshows together.
I've got a presentation where I go the other way, where I've got a sequence of slides which I fire off in rapid sequence, like tenth of a second, and that gives the appearance of a time lapse photography of in this case is a water tower being built. So, and of course I've got a heck of a lot of slides for that.
Yes. Yes. And for that application, that is valid. And you can, and hopefully you're not clicking, you're setting that transition to do that for you.
Yes.
But but that's very valid for, for that application placed here is not. So, you're doing the right thing. It just depends on what you're trying to get across and what you're doing. Yeah. But it makes it fun though, isn't it? To do that. It can be a lot of fun. All right. All right. Next question. Comment. And let me save this for myself. All right. All right. So again, did I finish? Are we too early?
No, not at all.
What? Okay, works. All right. All right. Then if there are no more questions and nothing else you'd like me to show you, then I'm going to hand the stage back to you. Stop my share.